Welcome my YouTube channel, Stoic Powerful Habits, asterisk, ladies and gentlemen. Asterisk in a world where noise dominates, where texting first is mistaken for care, and chasing is mistaken for love. I want to offer you something different, something ancient, something stoic. The ability to step back calmly, without anger, without drama, without need is one of the most powerful habits a person can master. When you step back not to punish, but to protect your peace, people notice, they feel it. Because calmness isn't emptiness. It's charged silence. It's presence without pressure. It's power without noise. Let me be clear. I'm not walking away out of weakness. You are stepping back because your self-worth no longer needs negotiation. You're no longer interested in begging to be understood, explaining your value, or proving your loyalty. Oh, you've already shown it. Now it's time for the world door that person to sit. Oh, in the echo of your absence. Let them feel the difference between your presence and your silence. Let them realize that while they were busy testing you, you were quietly deciding. You are not detached because you don't care. You are detached because you finally do. You care enough about your energy not to spill it everywhere. And here's the beauty of it. When you step back calmly, without blame, without bitterness, just with pure clarity, their heart follows. Not because you tried, not because you didn't. Because the human heart is magnetized to what it cannot control. It starts chasing the calm it once overlooked. It starts missing the peace it once disturbed. Stoicism is not about being cold. It's about knowing your warmth is valuable and refusing to hand it to chaos. It's not about being distant, but about letting your nearness be earned. A stoic man or woman doesn't explode. They expand inward. They choose stillness over reaction. They choose to be the storm's eye, not the storm itself. And from that place of quiet power, they attract everything they once tried to chase. So when you feel the urge to react, pause, breathe, step back not to withdraw your love, but to protect your peace. Let others do what they must, but you do what honors your calm. Because when you step back with calm, you don't lose people. You lose the ones who weren't meant to stand beside you, but the ones who truly felt your energy. Their heart will follow. Not because you pulled them, but because you rose above them. And from that higher ground, your silence became more powerful than any words you ever spoke. And that, my friends, is the Stoic way, where calm is the roar, stillness is the message, and presence is a choice. Asterisk, there is a sacred law at work when you withdraw your presence from another. The very moment you step back not with resentment or need, but with composure and clarity, you activate a powerful spiritual reaction in the unseen. The withdrawal is not a rejection. It is an assertion. It is a quiet proclamation that your inner world is sovereign, that your peace is no longer up for negotiation. You are no longer moved by appearances. You have remembered who you are when you are no longer striving to be chosen, no longer explaining, no longer convincing. You have entered the high place within. This is where all true power begins, not in the noise of trying, but in the silence of knowing. Your calm detachment signals to the world that you are no longer the effect of others, you are the cause. You do not need to chase, because you now realize that reality rearranges itself around your state of being, and your state, when governed by calm assurance, becomes magnetic. People sense this shift. Okay, they may not understand it with their mind, but their spirit reacts. They feel the release of your energy, the sudden quiet where your attention once stood like a flame. They feel the vacuum you leave behind, and the deeper the impression you once made, the stronger the pull of your absence becomes. This is not manipulation, it is law. When something valuable withdraws, the heart awakens to its worth. The one who steps back calmly becomes the mirror that exposes what was taken for granted. There is a vibrational current that flows through the individual, who is no longer at war with the outer world. When you withdraw with stillness, without a single word of complaint, You no longer declare, I am done with your mouth. You declare, I am whole with your presence. That presence undisturbed, grounded, deeply anchored in itself, a message louder than any confrontation could. The message is this: I am no longer available to what dishonors my spirit. And when this message is felt, not spoken, but felt, a divine reversal begins to occur. The one who once overlooked you begins to remember. The one who once felt secure in your pursuit now senses its absence like a shadow. This is the unseen law of withdrawal. The T does not create desire through pressure. The T, it creates desire through contrast. When your energy, once freely given, is now withheld in peace, it creates a silence loud enough to awaken the sleeping heart. The outer world is only echo. It is shaped and reshaped by the state you occupy within. When you step back in calm, you are not stepping away from love. You are stepping into alignment. You are stepping into the truth that love does not beg to be received. It exists as the unshakable reality in you, regardless of who chooses to honor it. And as you return to this knowing, the need to be seen, to be validated, to be chased, falls away like dead leaves from a strong tree. Stillness is not passive. It is force contained. It is power that knows its worth and no longer needs performance to prove it. When you step back calmly, your inner conversation changes. No longer ask, why don't they value me? Instead, you rest in the deeper truth. I am already valuable. And this inner shift, repeated and affirmed without effort, begins to externalize itself. The outer must respond to the new law you hold within. You do not step back to test them. You step back to bless yourself. You bless yourself by no longer standing where your essence is not met with honor. And in doing so, you bless them to, for absence is often the only space in which one may come to understand presence. The person who is numb to your giving must now feel the weight of your stillness, not as punishment, but as a teacher. Sacred invitation for them to meet you on the level where you now stand. To be stoic is not to be coded, is to be clear, to no longer participate in the cycles that drain your spirit. It is the refusal to abandon yourself in order to be understood by those who are not yet ready. When you no longer fear being misunderstood, when you no longer panic in the face of distance, you have become powerful. That is the step back that draws hearts, not the angry retreat, but the silent rising. And what of detachment? True detachment is not the absence of care. It's the fullness of care rightly ordered. It is to love so purely that you release the need to control. You no longer hold the reins of outcome because you trust the unfolding. You have planted your seed of worth, and you allow life to grow it as it must. You are no longer desperate for affirmation because you have found your affirmation in the eternal self, the self that is not diminished by rejection, nor inflated by attention. When you are emotionally detached in the right spirit, you are not cutting cords with bitterness. You are loosening them with grace. You are stepping back into your center, into the seat of your true being. And from there, you see with new eyes. You see that your energy is not meant to be spent proving your worth, but preserving it. You speak less, not out of fear, but because your silence has become more eloquent than explanations. You give less, not out of lack, but because what you now give is sacred. It cannot be wasted. The one who walks with emotional mastery is not. Hard, they are deep. There are still waters that run beneath the storm of reactive living. Because they are deep, others are drawn to them, though they may not know why. Okay? It is the gravity of peace. It is the weight of presence. It is the frequency of one who no longer needs to be seen in order to feel seen. They are seen by themselves. They have become their own witness, their own approval, their own source. This is the man or woman who changes the world not through argument, but through energy, not through pursuit, but through presence. Other. Calm detachment is not indifference. It's love in its highest expression. A love that lets go. A love that allows. A love that trusts the soul's journey even when it appears to separate. And this love, when it is felt in the withdrawal, becomes unforgettable. They will feel it. In the middle of the night, they will wonder why your silence feels louder than your voice ever did. In the middle of their day, they will remember your peace, your stillness, your presence. And in that remembering, a new awareness will arise. The heart, once complacent in your nearness, will begin to search for what it once ignored. Not because you pulled it, but because you released it. And so, when you step back calmly, you set in motion the return not just of a person, but of your power, your wholeness, your peace. Let them feel your silence. Let them sit in the space you no longer occupy, not to punish, but to purify. For all that is meant will return, not through effort, but through law. And all that is not meant will fall away, unable to breathe in the atmosphere of your calm. Remain in that place, bide in that inner temple, where stillness is power. And from there, without words, you shall witness hearts returning, not to who you were, but to who you become. Asterisk, there is a sacred paradox woven into the very design of life. That which seems absent, when remembered with intensity, becomes more present than anything near. The illusion of presence is shattered when someone is physically close but energetically distant. And the illusion of absence dissolves when someone is physically gone. But their energy remains vivid, etched into memory, living in the unseen. This is the secret of presence through absence. The one who steps away calmly, without bitterness, without a cry for validation, plants themselves deeper in the consciousness of the other. The silence true, poised, silence amplifies essence. And what was once ignored in noise becomes undeniable in stillness. The spiritual man knows this. He understands that his power does not rely on constant appearance, but on sustained inner reality. When he walks away with dignity, he doesn't vanish. He multiplies inwardly. The impression of his essence remains imprinted upon the soul of the other, not because he forced remembrance, but because he allowed it. He became rare, a king, and in becoming rare, he became unforgettable. There is nothing louder to the heart than the echo of a presence once taken for granted, now withdrawn. That echo begins to haunt in the quiet moments, in the places once filled with shared attention. In the pauses where noise no longer exists to distract, we do not teach others to feel us by clinging. We teach them through absence. When that absence is calm and complete, when we are no longer reactive, when we no longer beg for attention, we rise into the invisible realm of consciousness, where all true connections are made and sustained. The one who leaves with stillness creates the most motion in the heart of the one left behind. It is not absence that makes them follow in. It's presence remembered through contrast. The soul does not long for what is always shouting. It longs for what once stood like a light, constant and calm, and then went dark without warning. Not to punish, but to preserve. Not to manipulate, but to maintain alignment with inner truth. Stillness, when rightly understood, is not simply the absence of activity. It is the fullness of being. It is a state of presence so profound that it vibrates beyond form. The man who has cultivated stillness within no longer depends on the outer world for acknowledgement. He walks through the world unseen, but deeply felt. People cannot explain the pull he has. He speaks less, yet moves more within them. He does not perform, and yet eyes follow. He holds no resentment, yet his absence pierces. This is not charisma. It is spiritual gravity. The soul that no longer needs to prove itself becomes irresistible. Because it lives beyond the games of approval and attention, one begins to understand that power does not come from volume. It comes from depth, and depth is silent. The deeper a thing is rooted, the less it sways. The more still one becomes, the more stable one is, and stability in a chaotic world is magnetic. When others feel lost in the whirlpool of emotions, it is the man of still presence who becomes their quiet north. His calm becomes their contrast. His refusal to react becomes a mirror to their own internal disorder. And whether they admit it or not, they begin to crave his stillness. Not out of want, but out of need. They want what he has, not because he demands it, but because he contains it. The moment you stop explaining yourself, stop defending your worth, and instead rest in the calm certainty of your being, you change everything. Others are no longer responding to your words. They are responding to your state. You cannot fake this stillness. You cannot perform it. You must embody it. It comes from the quiet knowledge that you are enough as you are. It comes from withdrawing from the outer drama and returning to the throne of your own awareness. From this place, there is no need to chase, no need to persuade. The outer begins to organize itself in harmony with the peace you carry. People, remember how you made them feel, not what you said. And when you step away, it is not your absence they feel, it is the feeling you once carried, now gone. That feeling lives on within them. It lingers, revisits them in quiet moments, and teaches them through contrast. The stillness you left behind speaks louder than your presence ever could. It teaches them what peace truly feels like. And because that peace is now absent, their soul begins to seek its return. But it does not find it in noise, in chaos, or in panic. It finds it only when it matches your stillness. Until then, they remain drawn, but unfulfilled. To be still is to trust, not in the person, but in the law. It is to know that what is real cannot be lost, that what is aligned must return, and that anything that fades in your stillness was never rooted deep enough to stand beside you. You must hold this inner position without shaking. You must become so inwardly rooted that even when others leave, even when their voices go silent, even when their energy retreats, you remain anchored. This is the power they will feel. Not your words, not your emotions, but your unwavering presence inside your own being. And from that place, you no longer fear absence. You no longer fear silence. You welcome it because you know silence reveals truth. You know space invites alignment. And you know stillness separates the shallow from the deep. You begin to notice how quickly noise flees from silence. How quickly the inauthentic disappears in the presence of realness. The truth is that not everyone can endure your stillness. Some will flee it, not because you are wrong, but because they are not yet ready to face what it awakens in them. But some will rise. Okay, they will meet your energy. They will recognize your stillness not as cold, but as the invitation it truly is. You no longer act to be seen. You no longer react to be understood. You allow your energy to speak in stillness. You allow your calm to be the final word. And in that sacred surrender, you become the lesson. Not a voice preaching in desperation, but a presence teaching in silence. They will hear it when they are still enough. They will feel it when their noise finally tires. And in that moment, your energy will return not as a memory, but as a message. You have become the standard, the measuring stick, the silent reminder of what it means to be steady in the storm. And in a world that craves attention, your refusal to demand it becomes your greatest attraction. Stillness, then, is not a passive position. It is creative power. It builds quietly, roots deeply, and draws without chasing. It reveals what is true, repels what is false, and remains long after all performance fades. So when you step back and choose calm over chaos, silence over noise, presence over panic, you are not disappearing. You are elevating. You are becoming. Invisible to the surface and undeniable to the soul. You are remembered not as the one who pleaded to be seen, but as the one who became unforgettable by being still. Let that be enough. Let it be your law. And all that is aligned must follow. Asterisk, to govern oneself inwardly is to ascend. To master the movement of thought and feeling is to take dominion over the world without lifting a finger. the one who has become. A master of emotion is not ruled by the tides of reaction, nor is he disturbed by the behavior of others. He observes the world not as a victim of it, but as the cause. And because he does not move from the surface, but from the center, all that surrounds him must come into harmony with the law he embodies. Emotional mastery is not the denial of feeling, but the refinement of it. It is not the suppression of the inner world, but its purification. When you begin to govern the self instead of seeking to govern others, a strange thing happens. Others begin to look to you, though you do not seek their gaze. They begin to respect you, though you demand nothing. Your restraint becomes a presence, your silence a guide, your steadiness a mirror. And in that mirror, others glimpse their own chaos. What you no longer react to becomes the place where they begin to reflect. This is not about control in the outer sense, but alignment in the inner one. The need to be seen dissolves when you fully see yourself. The craving to be validated fades when you walk with quiet reverence for your own being. And it is this quiet, unshaken presence that others begin to notice, not because you declared your worth, but because you lived it without effort. You no longer reach to be heard. You no longer push to be felt. Instead, you allow your energy to carry its own signature calm, rooted, undeniable dot. When a man or woman walks in emotional mastery, they carry a lightness that is not empty, but strong. They do not collapse under pressure, nor do they explode. With need, they rise above it. Their energy speaks clearly. I am whole, and I do not require chaos to know myself. This wholeness acts as a gravitational force. The more aligned you are within, the more others begin to orbit around that still point. They do not even realize why they are drawn, only that they feel safer near you. Even if your presence challenges their noise, emotional mastery is spiritual. Elevation? It is the capacity to feel everything, but to choose only that which affirms your inner state. It is not that you are numb, but that you are disciplined. You no longer fall at the feet of the mood of the moment. You do not permit the outer world to dictate your inner kingdom. You know now that the true temple is not built of stone or sound, but of silent conviction. And this silence carries power. It teaches, it shifts atmospheres. It calls without words. The world is not transformed through resistance, but through radiance. The person who resists the behavior of others becomes entangled in the very frequency they seek to escape. But the one who radiates calm, who remains inwardly governed in the face of provocation, who chooses stillness over storm, becomes the unseen hand that moves the outer world into alignment. This is the sacred secret of influence. Real influence is not noise, it is frequency. It is the vibration you hold, not the words you speak, that changes lives. And what of boundaries? True boundaries are not walls. They are definitions of value. They do not scream or threaten. They do not push others away through force. Simply reveal what you will and will not allow through clarity. When you have mastered yourself, your boundaries become natural. They are not rules you recite, but standards you embody. Others learn how to treat you, not because you told them, but because you showed them through your stillness, through your refusal to descend, through your quiet exit from energies that no longer serve you. Every step back is a line drawn not in sand, but in spirit. It is the movement of inner authority, reclaiming space. When you withdraw without need, without anger, you signal that your essence is not for consumption, it is for communion. It is not something to be tested, but something to be respected. And this respect does not require noise. It requires presence. The moment you stop explaining and begin simply being, your energy starts to instruct those around you. You no longer negotiate your value. You walk in it. And from this place, others rise to meet a tour. They fall away. You begin to understand that you are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to express it. And expression requires no audience. The sun does not shine harder because no one is watching. It shines because shining is its nature. You, too, shine by nature. Your boundaries are not punishment. They are protection of the light you carry. And the brighter the light becomes, the more selective you must be with who you allow to bask in it. Boundaries are not erected in bitterness, but in clarity. They are not meant to keep others out, but to keep you in alignment. When you understand this, you no longer fear walking away. You no longer hesitate to go silent, because silence is not absence, it is sanctuary. It is a sacred space where your energy recalibrates, where your power returns to center. It is the sound of your soul saying, I choose peace over permission. Let others think what they must. Let them assume, project, distort. It is not your burden. Your burden is only to remain true to your inner law, to stay in alignment with your standard, even when others do not understand it. They may resist at first. They may feel the distance and react. But over time, they will either rise to match your clarity or fade in the presence of it. And both outcomes serve your evolution. It is not your role to chase understanding. It is not your purpose to convince another of your value. You are the revelation, not the explanation. Ye are not here to teach by speaking alone. You are here to teach by being, and what you are being, consistently, moment by moment, becomes the invitation, the boundary, the gravity, the signal. When you stand in the wholeness of your emotional mastery and your clear standards, the world cannot help but respond. Those meant to remain will feel your peace and seek to join you in it, not through words, but through transformation. They will sense that your calm cannot be manipulated, not your space cannot be taken, that your energy cannot be reached unless they come with reverence. This is the natural filtering that boundaries create. They do not shut doors in fear. They open paths only for the aligned. So you walk, you move in stillness, you step back, not to vanish, but to rise. You do not explain your distance. You honor it. You hold the line not with force, but with frequency. And in this holding, you reclaim every piece of your scattered energy. You return to yourself. You walk again as the one who remembers. The one who knows that mastery over self is the highest form of power. And in that power, the world bends not through demand, but through divine law. Asterisk, the deeper a man roots himself in inner discipline, the more the world around him bends to his. Silence. This is not a silence born of suppression, but of supreme command. The more one learns to observe without reacting, to feel without collapsing, to attend without forcing, the more he develops a kind of gravity. And this gravity does not beg to be seen. It does not fight to be known. It is known by its effect. What is not visible in word is deeply felt in presence. This inner gravity, cultivated in stillness, draws life into harmony with the one who holds it. You need not announce your strength when it is real. The oak does not tell the forest that it is grounded. The mountain does not boast of its height. Their presence speaks. So too with the man who walks in the quiet fullness of himself. His steps carry weight, not because he demands authority, but because he has first mastered the terrain within. The Stoic does not resist the world. He reorients himself so thoroughly that the world must now respond to him. Others feel it, though they cannot name it. Become aware of the unshaken energy that emanates from one who no longer seeks anything outside of what he already is. You cannot develop this gravity through performance. It comes only through inner labor, the invisible work, the daily choice to remain still while the world pulls, the deliberate effort to pause when all of you wants to reach, to feel emotion but not be led by it, to be tempted by reaction and yet remain sovereign in self. Each moment you choose this path, the weight of your being increases. You grow heavier not with burden, but with being. You become the man others orbit, not because you pursued them, but because your energy has grown dense with clarity. It is not arrogance to withdraw your energy from what is unworthy of it. It is devotion to truth. It is a sacred vow you take to no longer be used by your own unconsciousness. For as long as you chase what is fleeting, you rob yourself of what is eternal. But when you become still and inwardly focused, when you begin to feed only the state of your true identity, the world begins to shift. That which you once reached for now reaches for you. Not because you pulled it, but because your field has changed. You do not attract by grasping. You attract by becoming. When the inner world aligns with confidence, peace, and purpose, the outer world is left with no choice but to mirror it. There is no effort here, only emergence. The more you center yourself in who you truly are, the more powerful your gravitational pull becomes. You begin to notice that things, people, and opportunities once repelled by your neediness now gravitate toward your neutrality. It is not the mind that causes it. It is the state. A calm, unshaken man is rare, and the rare is always sought. But to walk in this inner state, one must let go of the addiction to being chosen. One must abandon the need for reassurance. One must trust the unseen more than the visible. The invisible law responds not to begging, but to being. And when you become the one who no longer waits, no longer tries, no longer reacts, you become the one they remember. They remember the calm. They remember the presence. They remember how your silence said more than their noise ever could. In every moment of your existence, you are communicating. It's not merely through speech, but through vibration, through posture, through stillness, through the unseen emanation of your inner atmosphere. And when you no longer ask others to complete you, your energy communicates a message far more compelling than words. I am full. I am steady. I am sovereign. Oh. This message, felt but not spoken, invites reverence. Oh. It awakens in others either their best or their resistance. But in both cases, you are no longer at the mercy of their response. You remain whole. This is why the Stoic is powerful, because he is not moved by desire in the way the world understands desire. His desire is inward, refined, consecrated. He no longer desires to possess, but to radiate. He no longer desires to win, but to walk in alignment. The external becomes a mirror, not a master. The feedback of the world becomes data, not direction. He is led by the spirit within, and this inner guidance system renders him unmoved by the temporary approval of others. As you embody this, love itself transforms. No longer is it a seeking, a pulling, a yearning. It becomes a giving, an allowing, a knowing. You stop needing love to prove itself to you. You become the place where love resides. You are no longer available to anyone who cannot meet you in that atmosphere. Not because you are unkind, but because you have remembered what is sacred. And what is sacred cannot be sold for attention. The world respects power more than pleading. It bows to certainty more than longing. Even in relationships. The dynamic is never truly about appearance, beauty, or charm. It is about energy. A man who is still in his energy, who does not rush to fix, to chase, to solve, this man becomes magnetic. The heart follows not the loud, but the still, not the desperate, but the deliberate. When you stop giving your power away in hopes that someone will value you, you make room for someone who already does. It is the absence of need that calls, the absence of clinging that invites. When you truly no longer need someone to love you, that is when you are most lovable. When your attention becomes selective, your presence becomes precious. When your peace becomes your priority, your space becomes a temple. Those who once played with your time begin to notice that your time is no longer accessible. And that inaccessibility speaks louder than all your past efforts ever did. Love, when rooted in true power, does not perform. It does not over-explain. overreach, or overgive. It rests. It moves as needed, but does not chase. It speaks as necessary, but does not beg. It stands in silence because it knows what is meant cannot be lost, and what is not cannot be forced. From this realization, you move different. You speak less. You observe more. You allow others to come to their own awareness instead of dragging them toward your clarity. There is no competition where there is embodiment. The man who walks with full awareness of his worth is not threatened. He does not rush to be seen. He understands that the law responds to essence, not effort. He knows that all things unfold in time to those who remain true to the inner pattern, so he stays with it. He returns daily to the inner altar. He feeds the vision. He guards his energy. And because of this devotion, the outer must obey. It's the sacred paradox. When you release the need for love to come, it appears. When you stop proving your value, it becomes evident. When you let go of needing someone to follow, they often do. Not because of control, but because your presence now carries the clarity they did not know they were looking for. To become this version of yourself is not to become heartless, but heartful. To stop chasing is not to stop loving. It is to love so deeply that you can release, knowing that love does not vanish, it expands. It circles back. It reflects. And when it returns, it will find you standing still, centered, unmoved exactly where power always resides.